Story 1. My parents expected me to quit college because my golden child twin didn't get in. My parents actually expected me to quit college just because my twin sister didn't get accepted, and in their minds it somehow wasn't fair for me to move ahead in life faster than she could. Things got so ridiculous that they even tried to have me removed from the college entirely. Because of that, I'm posting this from a throwaway account since some of my siblings use Reddit too. Also, English isn't my first language, so please forgive me if I make a few mistakes along the way. For some background, I'm a 17-year-old girl with two older brothers. One is 20 and the other is 23, and I also have a twin sister. Our family is fairly wealthy, which has definitely shaped the way things work in our household. For as long as I can remember, my parents have pushed my sister and me to compete with each other. The strange part, though, is that they always seemed to favor her no matter what. She constantly had their full support, while I was always the one expected to be understanding and accommodating. Whenever I achieved something better than she did, my parents would pressure me to step aside or give it up for her sake. Strangely enough, they never asked her to do the same for me. Despite everything, I still love my sister and my parents, but deep down I've always felt that I've been treated unfairly. Both of us have dreamed about becoming doctors for many years now. I spent a huge amount of time studying and preparing for that goal, and to be fair, she worked hard as well. This year we both graduated from high school, and we ended up applying to the same medical programs at several of the same universities. Where we live, the system works differently than it does in the United States. Here, students can start medical school immediately after high school, as long as they get accepted into a program. My sister wanted us to attend the same university, and naturally my parents wanted that too. I felt differently about it, though. Personally, I wanted the chance to start my own life somewhere new instead of staying tied to my sister all the time. I love her a lot, but we've literally been together every single day since we were born. She's naturally introverted, while I'm much more outgoing, so growing up she usually followed me everywhere. I always tried to include her in everything I did and made sure she felt comfortable and happy. Still, living like that for our entire lives has been exhausting, and I've started to feel burned out by it. On top of that, if we attended the same university, my parents would definitely expect me to study with her constantly and help her keep her grades high. That would leave me with almost no chance to focus on my own work and personal success. Another issue is that my parents tend to get angry whenever I outperform her. This pattern has been going on for at least 10 years, and I know it could seriously hurt my future if it continues. At this point, all I really want is the opportunity to become my own person and build my own life. Now here's the part where I might actually be the jerk in this situation. I ended up getting accepted into 4 different universities, while my sister was admitted to 2. I waited patiently for her to decide which school she wanted to attend, and after that I made my own decision. Just like I'd planned, I chose a different university. But then everything suddenly changed. My sister decided she no longer wanted her original choice and said she preferred her second option instead, the exact same school I had just chosen. I told her it wasn't a problem and said I would simply go to another university that she hadn't been accepted to. Instead of appreciating that, she became really upset. My parents were even more furious. I calmly explained that I loved my sister very much, but I wanted the chance to start fresh somewhere new where people didn't already know me as part of a twin pair. My parents immediately gave me an ultimatum. They said that if I didn't attend the same university as my sister, they wouldn't pay for my education at all. At that point, I basically said, fine. I told them I would figure things out on my own and reached out to my grandparents for help instead. When my parents came to confront me about it, they kept insisting that I was being selfish, spoiled, and entitled. That was the moment I finally snapped. After years of holding everything in, I told them straight out that I hated the way they had treated me. Since then, I've stopped answering their calls and refused to speak to them. Thankfully, my brothers and my grandparents support my decision. However, most of the rest of the family thinks I'm completely in the wrong and keeps telling me I'm the bad guy in this situation. So am I? Edit. I really want to thank everyone for the support and advice. I've read every single comment, and it means a lot to me. My brother helped me gather everything I thought I would need when I left, and that even included bringing my cat along. I also contacted the university to ask whether my parents could withdraw my enrollment without my permission. Technically, they could attempt it, but since they never paid any tuition themselves, it would be complicated for them. The university staff even said they could try delaying any request until my 18th birthday. My grandparents reassured me that they wouldn't allow my parents to pull something like that anyway. Still, it felt good to have a backup plan just in case. Classes start on Monday, and for now it seems like everything has settled down. I'll post another update if anything significant happens. P.S. Right now I really don't feel ready to talk to my parents. All the anger I've been carrying for years suddenly feels very real and heavy, and I think I need some time to cool off before deciding what to do next. Honestly, they probably need some time to calm down too. Relevant comment. I think I mentioned this somewhere in the comments already, but originally I planned to attend a university that was fairly close to home. That way I could come back on weekends and still help my sister if she needed it, while technically having my own space. Eventually, I realized that I wouldn't actually have any real independence if I did that. Because of that realization, I chose the university I'm attending now. It happens to be the best medical school in my country and offers some great scholarships as well. The only downside is that it's also the farthest university from home out of all the ones I applied to. At this point, though, it doesn't really matter anymore. I made my decision and chose the path that felt right for me. Update. Hi everyone. Sorry it took me a while to post this update. I had some trouble getting it published, but everything is working now. Also, just a reminder that English isn't my native language, so there may still be a few mistakes. Anyway, classes started about 2 weeks ago, and honestly it has been incredible so far. My roommates are great, and I'm really enjoying all of my courses. The workload is definitely intense, but I've been able to keep up with it. Studying medicine has been my dream for years, and it honestly feels surreal that I'm finally here. However, something unexpected happened. Apparently, my parents called the university and asked the administration for my class schedule. From what I've been told, they claim that since they are my legal guardians, they have the right to access that information. The university responded by telling them that if they wanted any personal details about me, they would have to come in person and prove their identity first. The school also informed me that the call had taken place. This happened only a few days after the semester began. After that incident, my parents didn't contact me again until about a week ago. That's when they suddenly reached out and asked if I would meet them for dinner. They even offered to drive all the way to the city where I'm studying. That was honestly surprising because growing up they rarely even bothered to pick me up from a friend's house. Despite that, I agreed to meet them. We met on a Friday evening, and they had already booked a table at a fancy restaurant near campus. The dinner itself went better than I expected. It was still a little awkward at times, but overall they were polite and surprisingly pleasant. Then, near the end of the meal, they finally revealed the real reason they wanted to see me. They told me they were willing to cover my tuition and any other expenses I might have while studying. But there was a condition attached. They said they would only do it if I agreed to take a gap year first. I turned them down immediately. The conversation quickly turned into an argument. After a while, my dad got frustrated and said he was tired of my attitude and my so-called ungratefulness. He threw a 200-franc bill onto the table and stormed out of the restaurant. I'll be honest, I sat there crying for about half an hour after that. Eventually, I got up to leave. The bill and the tip together didn't even add up to 200 francs, so I ended up taking the change with me. Honestly, it was almost funny in a sad kind of way. If you're wondering what that whole scene was about, don't worry. I was just as confused as you are. Later, I spoke with my brother to try to figure out what was going on. Apparently, my sister has now decided that she doesn't actually want to go to medical school anymore. Instead, she wants to take a year off and travel or relax so she can clear her mind and figure out what she really wants to do in the future. And of course, you can probably guess what everyone else thinks should happen next. Most of my family believes that I should take a gap year with her. After all, we're twins. In their eyes, it would only be fair if we started university at the same time. Since that dinner, my parents haven't contacted me again. Strangely enough, I'm actually okay with that. In the meantime, I managed to secure a scholarship for school. There's also a possibility that I could earn another one by the end of the semester. My grandparents stepped in to cover the remaining costs. They keep insisting that I don't have to pay them back, but I've already decided that I will eventually repay them somehow. Yesterday, my sister finally replied to the messages I had sent her. She told me that I hurt her deeply by choosing not to stay with her. According to her, she isn't sure whether she'll ever be able to forgive me for that. I do understand how she feels, and honestly, I miss her a lot. But at the same time, I can't give up the dream I've been working toward for so many years. I just hope that one day she'll be able to see things from my perspective. For now, though, life is relatively stable. Nothing major has really changed. I still have my grandparents supporting me, and I've made some good friends here. So overall, I'm doing okay. I'll probably feel completely at peace once I turn 18. At that point, my parents won't have any legal way to try to remove me from the university. The good news is that my birthday is coming up very soon, so I'm feeling pretty optimistic about everything. Thank you to everyone who took the time to read my story and offer advice. I truly appreciate the support. Edit. Thank you again for all the comments and messages. My schedule has been pretty busy lately, so I haven't managed to read through everything yet. But I promise I'll eventually respond to all of you. Also, some people were confused about the currency I mentioned earlier. The francs I talked about are Swiss francs, since that's the currency used here in Switzerland. Relevant comments. Honestly, I don't fully understand my parents' reasoning either. Things have been like this for as long as I can remember. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my sister. We just have different personalities. She's naturally more shy and quiet than I am, but nothing about her behavior is unusual. Growing up, she almost always followed me around. On top of that, my parents never allowed me to have friends who weren't also her friends, and they rarely let me attend events unless she came with me. I also spent a lot of time helping her study. Ironically, whenever I ended up getting better grades than she did, my parents would get upset with me. My best guess is that they're afraid she won't do well on her own. They might think that if I succeed more than she does, it will make her feel insecure or inadequate. But honestly, I can't say for sure what goes on in their heads. Sometimes I think my sister and I could have had a much closer relationship if our parents hadn't constantly forced us to stay together. It's actually pretty sad when I think about it. On one hand, I'm glad that I finally have the chance to be independent and make my own choices. On the other hand, I feel bad for my sister because she still seems to struggle with being on her own. Thank you again for all the encouragement. I really hope things continue to improve. And more than anything, I hope my sister eventually finds her own path and happiness too. When someone asked if our parents made us dress alike, yes, they absolutely did. When we were in elementary school, they dressed us in identical outfits every single day. I remember feeling incredibly embarrassed about it, and by the time I reached middle school, I was constantly begging them to finally let us dress differently. Second story, I ran away from my narcissistic family. Now they're panicking. I ended up running away from home because I couldn't take my family's constant neglect and emotional abuse anymore. Now they're completely losing their minds over it. But the funny part is, they're not upset because I left. They're panicking because they're worried about what this might do to their perfect family image. To start things off, I should probably mention that I was never the favorite child in my family. There's a pretty common stereotype that the youngest sibling usually gets the most love and attention from the parents. Maybe that's true in some families, but in mine, it couldn't be further from the truth. I've always known exactly why my family treated me the way they did, too. They never really try to hide it. The simple truth is that I was never supposed to exist. My parents originally planned to have exactly 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl. That was the perfect family they had imagined for themselves. Unfortunately for them, I came along afterward as a second son. Since I didn't fit into their carefully planned picture of the perfect family, I basically became the unwanted extra. Because of that, I was usually ignored on birthdays. Sometimes they didn't even acknowledge them at all. They also refused to include me in family photos. They wanted the outside world to see the tidy little family they had envisioned, and I didn't fit into that picture. They clung to that illusion for years. And just to make things worse, my parents punished me far more harshly than they ever punished my siblings. For example, my sister once stole money and was grounded for a week. Meanwhile, I once got beaten simply for leaving my room in the middle of the night. Despite all that, I managed to put up with the situation for a long time. Even though my parents barely paid attention to me, I always tried to keep a decent relationship with my siblings. A few years ago, my oldest brother got married. At that time, I was still under 18. Even though I was excited for him, I wasn't allowed to attend the wedding. The official excuse was that it was going to be a child-free wedding. I was 15 years old at the time, which obviously isn't a little kid. Realistically, there was no reason I couldn't have gone. Still, even though it hurt to be the only family member excluded, I kept quiet and accepted it. Now I'm 20, and recently my sister decided to get married. Last fall she had a baby girl, and she and her partner thought it was the perfect time to finally tie the knot. I was genuinely excited for the wedding. I even went out and bought myself a nice suit for the occasion. Then, at some point, I received a message from my sister. She told me I wouldn't be able to attend the wedding after all. According to her, they were planning another child-free wedding, and someone needed to stay behind and watch her daughter, my niece. Right away, I knew that explanation wasn't true. They already had a babysitter lined up. The babysitter was a friend of hers who wanted to earn some extra money while she was studying. When I mentioned that to my sister, she claimed the babysitter suddenly couldn't make it because she needed to study. That turned out to be another lie. Earlier, I had actually sent the babysitter a friend request on Facebook, and on the day of the wedding, she even posted that she was enjoying a day off. At that point, I asked my sister if she could find someone else to watch the baby, because I really wanted to attend the wedding, especially after missing my brother's ceremony. That's when she suddenly snapped at me. She told me I was being selfish and said that if I were a good brother, I would agree without arguing. Then she added that if I refused to babysit, I wouldn't be invited to the wedding at all. Hearing that honestly felt like being punched in the stomach. I couldn't understand why she didn't want me there. In the end, I gave in and agreed to babysit. Still, I tried reaching out to my parents again to talk about it. They immediately sided with her. They told me I was being selfish and reminded me that the day wasn't about me anyway. My sister, they said, was the one deciding the guest list. That conversation made something else painfully clear to me. My presence at the wedding had never been planned in the first place. I realized that I was the only person in the family who never received an invitation. Yesterday was the wedding day. I spent the evening watching photos appear in the family WhatsApp group while I sat alone. Everyone looked happy. They were laughing, celebrating, and having a great time. When my sister dropped her daughter off at my apartment earlier that day, I even tried to give her the wedding present I had bought. She didn't even look at me. Not once. She didn't thank me for the gift, and she didn't thank me for babysitting either. That moment was the final straw for me. I decided I was done. Even though I love my family in some ways, I can't continue living like this anymore. I currently work a remote job, and there's a good chance I'll receive a promotion soon. When that happens, I plan to move far away and cut off contact with all of them. They'll get the picture-perfect family they always wanted, the one without the extra son who ruined their image. And I'll finally get the peace I've been craving. Honestly, it sounds like a win-win situation. Comment. Someone wrote, just focus on the day when you'll finally be free from them. And when that day comes, don't look back. Maybe even change your last name. I replied that I had actually thought about doing exactly that. Then I asked whether I should at least leave my family a message before disappearing. Another commenter responded with some strong advice. They told me to go completely no contact. No explanations, no warnings. Just disappear one day. They suggested letting the police quietly know that I'm safe so the family can't pretend they're concerned. Eventually, they said, my family will need something from me. And when that day comes, I'll be nowhere to be found, living my best life far away from them. They told me karma always catches up eventually, even if it takes decades. Update, 5 days later. Originally, I didn't plan to post an update, but so many people asked about it that I figured I should explain what happened next. My original post is 5 days old now, and quite a lot has happened since then. First of all, I followed some of the advice people gave me. I contacted the local police station and explained my situation, just in case anyone reported me missing. The day after making the post, I packed up my belongings and drove to stay with a friend who lives pretty far away. We hadn't seen each other in a while, but he kindly offered to let me stay with him until I can find my own apartment. And before anyone asks, I didn't wait for my promotion after all. I just wanted to get out immediately. After that, I started reading through all the comments on my post. Thank you all so much for the support. It really meant a lot to me. Apparently, my story even ended up spreading on TikTok. But I guess what everyone really wants to know is what my family has been doing. Well, I blocked all of their phone numbers. Even though most people told me not to leave a message, I did leave one. Just not the way you might expect. My family still has a spare key to my old apartment. So if they ever decide to check on me, they'll find a letter waiting for them there. In that letter, I wrote everything I've ever felt, every bit of pain, every memory, and every way they've hurt me over the years. Surprisingly, my friend actually received a phone call from my mother yesterday. I'm not sure if she had already found the letter or simply realized that I disappeared, but I assume she must have read it. She told my friend that she was worried about me and said she had been calling all of my friends trying to find out where I was. My friend lied and told her he didn't know. Then she hung up. Some people might see that as proof she cares. But I know my mother better than anyone. She isn't worried about me. She's worried about her reputation and about how people might react if they found out what kind of parent she really was. As far as I know, though, she's the only one who has tried to reach out so far. To be fair, I blocked their numbers, so I can't say for certain that no one else tried. Still, the silence says a lot. This Sunday, my friend's mom invited me over for dinner. His family has always been incredibly kind to me, and I'm grateful not to be completely alone right now. I'd also be lying if I said all of this didn't affect me emotionally. During the first 2 nights after leaving, I cried almost nonstop. But I'm determined to move forward. I want to leave all of that pain behind and start building a new life for myself. Thank you again for all the support. If anything important happens, I'll try to update you again. Third story. I finally had enough of my entitled sister-in-law and didn't invite her kids to Easter. This situation unfolded over almost an entire year, so there's quite a bit of background to explain first. I apologize in advance because the story is pretty long. About a year ago, my sister-in-law, she's 36, told me that her daughter's bike had become too small for her. She then basically informed me that I needed to buy the kid a new bike that actually fit. To be clear, I generally don't mind helping out family. My husband and I are in a good financial position, and when we're able to help someone, we're usually happy to do it. So we went ahead and bought my niece a brand new bike. After we gave it to her, my sister-in-law asked if the kids could come over to our house for a few hours so they could ride bikes together with my kids. We agreed because that sounded harmless enough. When my niece hopped on her new bike for the first time, I snapped a quick photo and sent it to her parents so they could see her enjoying it. What came back shocked me. Instead of a thank you, I received a long, angry message from my sister-in-law accusing me of stealing an important parenting milestone from her. She said I was a terrible person and claimed I shouldn't even be part of the family. She went on to accuse me of teaching her daughter how to ride a bike without training wheels and said that everything I do ends up hurting people and causing emotional trauma. I tried explaining that I hadn't taught her how to ride at all. In fact, the neighborhood kids were the ones helping her figure it out. All I had done was buy the bike, something my sister-in-law had demanded in the first place. After sending that rant, she told me not to call or text her anymore because she was too furious and didn't want to say something she might regret. She added that they would tell us when we were allowed to bring the kids back home. I was completely bewildered. At that point, her kids were still at my house, and I honestly didn't know what I was supposed to do. I ended up talking to a close friend and neighbor about the situation. During that conversation, they told me something that really worried me. They said they had been growing concerned about the kids for a while. Apparently, the children had mentioned several troubling things about their home life. My neighbor also told me they had just gotten off the phone with Child Protective Services because they felt the kids needed a welfare check. To be honest, I agreed with them. But since the kids spent so much time at my house anyway, I didn't think it was necessary for me to make a report myself. About 4 hours later, we finally received a message saying we could bring the kids home. My husband walked them back to their house. After that, I sent my sister-in-law a message trying to address the situation calmly. I explained that I don't believe in yelling at someone and then refusing to communicate. I told her exactly what had happened and explained that the photo was simply taken in my driveway. I also reminded her that her daughter had ridden a bike before. In fact, she had already ridden my daughter's bike while my sister-in-law and her husband were present, so they had seen it themselves. They must have simply forgotten that she already knew how. I apologized and said I genuinely wanted us to talk things out. Now, I'm not trying to paint myself as perfect here. I was definitely angry. And in the middle of that anger, I said something I probably shouldn't have. I told her that it wasn't fair for her to constantly place the responsibility of raising her kids on me. I acknowledged that they were going through a difficult time, but I said that their children ultimately needed their own parents. I explained that I was exhausted from being yelled at for things like my niece missing assignments at school. I was also tired of constantly paying for things to take care of their kids when I already have children of my own. I told her that I would step back and give them space. But since I was stepping back, I said there was something important she needed to know. That's when I mentioned the neighbor calling CPS. Looking back now, I can admit that I could have handled that conversation much better. I reacted out of anger when I should have shown more patience and compassion. Unfortunately, things only got worse from there. My husband's parents ended up joining the conflict. Somehow the entire family convinced themselves that I was the one who called CPS. I should probably mention that I had a very abusive childhood growing up, but I had never shared those experiences with my in-laws. Eventually, I tried to clear the air. One day, I created a new group text with my husband's entire family. In that message, I apologized. I admitted that I had responded in anger and said I was sorry for the way I handled things. I tried to explain the situation as clearly as I could and talked about why open communication matters so much to me. That's when my sister-in-law replied with something that stunned me. She wrote, "We know you had a rough childhood. That's why we're all trying to show you how a loving family actually works. Someone has to teach you." My husband was furious when he read that message. He told his family he was done watching them treat me this way. He reminded them that we had been trying to repair things for months. Their response? Silence. We were completely ignored. Months later, I attempted to apologize again. This time I wrote handwritten letters to everyone. I tried to extend an olive branch and said I genuinely wanted us to move forward. I even invited them all over to our house for dinner. That finally broke the silence, but only a little. They declined the invitation, saying they were too busy. However, they mentioned that the kids could still play together at Thanksgiving. When Thanksgiving came around, I thought things had gone okay. No one spoke directly to me, but they did talk with my husband and our kids. Then later they canceled the family Christmas gathering. The reason they gave was that my husband and I were the only ones doing well financially, and it would make the holiday too difficult for everyone else. Fast forward several months to the present. For some reason, I suddenly felt inspired to organize an Easter dinner. So about a week ago, I sent out invitations for the 27th of this month. On the invitation, I wrote that I needed RSVPs so I could plan properly for each child. Instead of a traditional Easter egg hunt, I decided to organize a scavenger hunt. My idea was to create enough clues so that every kid could read at least 2 of them, making sure everyone felt included. At the end of the scavenger hunt, I planned to give each child a crocheted bunny that I had made myself. Because of that, I needed time to prepare. In total, I would have to write more than 18 clues and crochet 11 different bunny toys. Before sending the invitations, I actually asked my sister-in-law if she wanted to help plan the event. She completely ignored my message, so I assumed that meant she wasn't interested. After that, I sent invitations to everyone in my husband's family. Every single person said yes, except for that one sister-in-law. I also invited my own family, and they all responded with a yes as well. The thing is, my in-laws don't know that my side of the family is coming. Now I'm wondering if I should mention that to them. About a week after sending the invitations, I contacted my sister-in-law again and asked if she planned to attend the event. I also asked her another unrelated question in the same message. She replied, but only answered the other question. She completely ignored the one about Easter. Based on her past behavior, I know exactly what she tends to do. She'll skip the RSVP entirely, then suddenly show up at the last minute with all 4 of her kids and expect everything to be perfectly prepared for them. I told my husband that this time I refused to go along with that behavior. Not anymore.